The night was heavy with rain. Cold drops fell over the broken colony streets where tall towers of metal trash reached up like mountains. The colony had long been abandoned by its builders, but the trash remained. Machines with no power, old ships broken apart, and containers filled with rotting waste. The place smelled of oil, rust, and despair. Inside one of these trash containers, a small alien girl hid. She was no more than 12 years old, thin and weak, her skin marked with cuts and dirt. Her wide eyes shivered every time she heard footsteps outside. She hugged her knees tightly, pressing her body against the cold metal wall, wishing the world would forget her. She was hiding from hunters. Everyone knew the hunters roamed this place at night. They searched for the lost, the weak, the unwanted. If they caught her, they would sell her. And to them she was worth only the price of a broken tool. In her mind, one thought returned again and again. Maybe I am trash too. The sound of boots echoed nearby. She held her breath. Shadows moved outside the broken container, and she pushed herself deeper under piles of torn fabric and plastic. Her heart beat like a drum, fast and loud, as if the hunters would hear it. For a moment, silence. Only the rain, then another sound. Not heavy boots. Not angry voices. A softer sound. A small voice. You're not garbage. Her eyes snapped open. She looked around, confused. Who had spoken? From between two metal scraps, a tiny figure stepped into the weak light. He was small. Shockingly small. The size of her hand. At first she thought he was a toy or a doll come alive. But no, he was human, a boy. His skin pale, his hair wet from rain, his clothes torn but stitched in strange ways. His eyes were sharp, glowing with something she could not name. The girl pressed her back against the wall. Who are you? Her voice trembled. The boy tilted his head and gave a half smile. I'm no one important, but I saw you. You don't belong here. You don't belong in trash. She stared at him in shock. All her life, humans had been taller, stronger, louder. This one was different. He looked fragile, breakable, yet he spoke with strange confidence. How are you so small? She asked. The boy's smile faded. His eyes grew serious. Because they made me this way. But that's not the point. He climbed up a broken piece of metal and sat, his legs hanging down. The point is, you're not garbage. You should not hide here. The hunters, they will find you if you stay. Her heart froze. Hunters? She whispered. Yes, he said. They are coming. I heard them. They don't just want you. They want me too. But I know how to escape. The girl's first thought was to push him away. Why should I trust a strange human boy? Why should I trust someone who looks like a child's toy? But another thought came, soft and dangerous. What if he's right? What if he really knows how to escape? Her breath shook. She pulled the torn fabric tighter around her body. Why do you care? She asked. The boy looked at her for a long time. The rain outside grew stronger, beating on the metal walls like a drum. Finally, he spoke. Because once someone told me the same words. You're not garbage. I believed them. And now it is my turn to say them to you. The girl could not reply. Her throat felt tight, her eyes wet. No one had ever said such words to her. Not her family who had left her. Not the traders who saw her as a tool. Not the hunters who wanted to sell her. For the first time she heard it from someone. A human, a boy no bigger than her hand. But before she could think more, the sharp sound of voices broke the moment. They went this way. A harsh shout outside. The sound of heavy boots splashing in puddles. The girl's body froze. Fear filled her chest like ice. The boy jumped down from the metal piece, his small hands tight into fists. His voice was quick and calm. If you stay here, they will find you. If you come with me, maybe we can survive. The hunters' shadows moved closer outside the container. Their flashlights cut through the rain, beams of white light bouncing across the trash mountains. The girl looked at the tiny boy. He looked so weak, so breakable, but his eyes held fire. Something in them said he had seen worse nights than this. She took a deep breath. Her hands shook. The hunters were only steps away, and in that moment between fear and hope she had to make a choice. Follow the tiny human boy into the unknown, or be caught and sold as garbage. The girl's breath came fast, her chest tight with fear. The hunters' voices outside grew louder, and the sound of boots against wet metal made her heart race. She stared at the small human boy who stood only inches tall, yet looked up at her with eyes full of determination. Come, he whispered, his voice sharp but calm. "Follow me." "I know a way." Her mind screamed with doubt. How could such a tiny human lead her anywhere safe? He was no taller than her hand, no stronger than a bird. Yet somehow he moved like someone who belonged to the shadows, quick and sure. She hesitated. If she stepped out, the hunters might see her. If she stayed, they would surely catch her. Then the boy turned and slipped into a narrow crack between two broken trash containers. He didn't wait for her answer. He simply went. Her hands shook, but her feet moved on their own. She pushed aside the wet plastic and crawled after him. Inside the crack, it was dark and tight. The smell of oil and old wires filled her nose. She crawled on hands and knees, following the boy's tiny figure. The rain outside became faint, and the hunters' shouts echoed farther away. When they finally stopped, they were inside a hollow tunnel made from old pipes and scraps. The boy stood in the middle of it, his small body lit by a thin beam of light leaking from above. "Safe for now," he said. The girl leaned against the pipe wall, gasping for air. Her body shook from cold and fear. She looked down at him, still unable to believe her eyes. You're human," she said softly. "Yes," he replied. His tone was flat, but his eyes carried weight. "But humans are tall, strong. You are small." He let out a bitter laugh, one far too old for his tiny face. "They made me this way. I was part of an experiment. A project to create humans small enough to explore dangerous places, mines, ruins, toxic worlds. A living tool. That's all I was to them." The girl felt her stomach twist. She understood what it meant to be a tool, to be treated as something less than a person. "Why did you run?" she asked. His eyes grew sharp. "Because I was tired of being a thing. I wanted to be free. Just like you." The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, but the truth burned inside her. She was the same. To the hunters, to the traders, even to her own people. She was nothing but a thing. The boy stepped closer, his tiny hands clenched into fists. "That's why I said you're not garbage. Because I know what it feels like to be treated as one." For a moment, silence filled the tunnel. The girl looked at him, this strange tiny boy with a broken past, and felt something new, a thread of trust. Weak, fragile, but real. "Why help me?" she whispered. He tilted his head. "Because someone once helped me. I can't forget that. If they hadn't, I would still be in a cage. Now it's my turn. You need help, and I will give it." Her eyes stung. No one had ever spoken like this to her. Not with kindness, not with belief. But before she could answer, a loud clang echoed through the tunnel. The hunters. They were searching the trash heaps, breaking metal, moving closer. The boy's face hardened. "We have to move again. Follow me, stay low. Don't make a sound." He darted into the darkness, his small frame quick and silent. The girl crawled after him, her heart pounding in her chest. The tunnel twisted and turned, made from pipes and wires long forgotten. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Machines half buried in walls. Screens that flickered faintly with dying light. Wires that still hummed with energy. "What is this place?" the girl asked. "The trash hides many secrets," the boy replied. "This is one of them. I know these tunnels better than the hunters. They can't follow us here." She stared at the strange machines glowing faintly in the dark. "You've been here before?" "Yes," he said. "For years I learned to survive in the trash. It is not just garbage. It's a maze. And I know every path." The girl looked at him with new eyes. Small, yes. Fragile, yes. But clever, brave. She had thought he was weak. But now she saw the truth. He had lived in this dangerous place and survived when others would not. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope, but that hope was short. Ahead, the tunnel shook as heavy footsteps echoed above them. A beam of light broke through a crack, shining down. The hunters were closer than ever. The boy grabbed her wrist, his tiny fingers surprisingly strong. "This way. There's a chamber. A place they don't know." They ran, her large form crawling fast, his tiny body darting like a shadow. Behind them, the hunters' voices grew louder. "Check below. They can't be far." The girl's heart thudded in her ears. Her legs burned. Her lungs begged for air, but she didn't stop. Finally, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber, filled with broken machines and screens glowing weak green light. The boy climbed onto a high pipe and looked down at her. "Here we plan," he said. His voice was steady, calm, almost commanding. "If we want to survive, we must think, not just run." The girl stared at him in silence. This tiny boy, smaller than her hand, was now the one leading. and for the first time she felt she could trust him. The chamber was wide and strange, its walls made of twisted pipes and broken machines. Dim green lights blinked on and off like tired eyes refusing to sleep. The girl stood in the middle of it, breathing hard, while the tiny human boy balanced on top of a pipe, watching her with sharp eyes. "This is not just trash," he said softly, his voice echoing in the hollow chamber. "This place remembers things. Secrets are buried here." The girl hugged her arms around herself. Her skin crawled at the thought. "Secrets?" she asked. "It's only garbage. Broken things no one wants." The boy shook his head. "No, not everything here is broken. Some things were left on purpose. Some things are dangerous." His words made her uneasy. She looked around at the machines half buried in the walls, screens with lines of symbols she could not read, wires that glowed faintly with blue sparks, and large gears that turned slowly as if waking from a long dream. "What are these?" she whispered. The boy climbed down the pipe and stood on a rusted panel. "Old human tech. Long before you and I humans built this place. They tested machines here, left experiments, buried mistakes." The girl frowned. "And you know all this?" "I lived here," he replied. His small face was serious. "I studied the machines, the tunnels, the patterns. I had to. It's the only way I survived." A shiver ran down her spine. She had thought of the trash world as nothing more than a graveyard of metal, but now she wondered if it was alive, breathing, remembering, watching. Suddenly, a low hum filled the chamber. A panel on the wall lit up with a pale white glow. The girl jumped back in fear. "Don't be afraid," the boy said quickly. "It happens sometimes. The machines still have power." The screen flickered, showing strange human words she could not understand. For a moment, a shape appeared, a human face but blurry and broken like a ghost. Then it vanished. The girl's heart pounded. "What was that?" "A recording," the boy said. His voice was calm, but his eyes narrowed. "A memory left behind." Before she could ask more, the sound of metal clanging echoed above them. The hunters. They were still searching, moving closer. The boy's face hardened. "We don't have long. We must go deeper." "Deeper?" she repeated, her stomach twisting. "Yes," he said firmly. "There's a place below. The hunters don't know it, but it's dangerous. You must trust me." Her mind fought against it. Deeper meant darker, stranger, more terrifying, but staying meant capture. She swallowed hard and nodded. The boy ran toward a broken grate at the far wall. He squeezed through easily, his small body vanishing into the shadows. She crawled after him, forcing her body through the tight space. The sharp edges cut her skin, but she pushed on. The tunnel beyond was colder. The air smelled like dust and old fire. Her hands brushed against smooth stone mixed with wires, and the ground sloped downward. "Keep close," the boy whispered. His tiny voice guided her through the dark. After a long crawl, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. The girl gasped. It was like stepping into another world. The walls of the cavern glowed faintly with blue veins of energy. Massive machines stood half buried in the ground, their shapes towering like sleeping giants. Rust covered them, but some still pulsed with faint light. "This," she whispered, "this is not trash." "No," the boy said, standing proudly on a rock. His small figure looked like a guide in the land of ghosts. "This is the heart of the trash world. The humans built it long ago. They called it a testing ground. I call it home." Her eyes widened as she stepped closer to one of the giant machines. It had arms like a beast, its head shaped like a helmet, its chest marked with symbols. She felt both fear and awe. "What were they testing?" she asked. The boy's eyes darkened. Power. Control. They wanted to build machines that could outlast wars, machines that could survive where humans could not. But they failed. Some of these machines turned dangerous, so they buried them here. The girl shivered. "And you lived among them?" "Yes," he said. "I learned their paths. I learned what wakes them and what keeps them asleep. That's how I stayed alive." The cavern trembled suddenly. A distant boom echoed through the tunnels above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The girl looked up in panic. "The hunters?" The boy shook his head. His face grew pale. "No, that sound was not the hunters. Something else is waking." She felt her blood run cold. "What do you mean?" He pointed toward one of the giant machines. Its chest, once dark, now glowed with a steady red light. The girl's mouth went dry. "It's alive?" The boy nodded slowly. "Alive enough. The humans left their ghosts here. And sometimes the ghosts do not sleep forever. The cavern grew louder with a deep rumbling hum. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. The red light spread across the machine's body, tracing lines like blood through veins. The girl stumbled back. "We should leave." The boy's tiny hand lifted, his voice sharp. "No. If we run without a plan, the hunters will find us. And if this machine wakes fully, it will not care who we are. It will crush us both." Her body trembled with fear. She wanted to run, to escape, to hide. But the boy's eyes held her in place. "We must understand this place," he said firmly. "Only then can we survive it." The machine's head twitched, gears grinding. A low growl filled the cavern, as if the trash world itself had found its voice. The girl's heart pounded in her chest. She had thought the trash world was only piles of broken things, but now she knew the truth. It was a graveyard of old power. And something inside it was still alive. The cavern shook again, louder this time. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the broken machines around them groaned like sleeping beasts turning in their rest. The girl pressed her back to the stone wall, her eyes wide with fear. The giant machine's chest glowed brighter, red lines spreading across its body. The sound of gears grinding echoed through the chamber like thunder. "It's waking," she whispered. The boy stood firm on a rock, his tiny fists clenched. "We don't have time. The hunters are close, and now this." His eyes darted to her. "We must move now." But before they could act, voices rang out above. "There. Lights down below." They went into the tunnels. The girl's heart sank. The hunters had found the path. The boy's voice turned sharp. "Run!" She stumbled forward, following his tiny form as he darted across the rocks. The cavern echoed with footsteps and shouts from above, the hunters dropping into the tunnels with flashlights that cut through the dark. The girl's breath came fast, her lungs burning. The boy moved with shocking speed, leaping over broken panels and slipping between narrow gaps. She chased him, her larger frame slower, clumsy but desperate. Behind them, the hunters shouted, "Don't let them escape." A beam of white light hit the cavern floor just behind her. She cried out and pushed herself harder. Then, the machine roared. The sound was not human, not animal, but something deeper, older. A growl of metal and fire. The cavern shook violently, and one of the machine's giant arms twitched. Its fingers, rusted but still strong, scraped against the ground. The hunters froze for a moment. "What the—" The boy didn't stop running. "Don't look back, faster." But the girl did look back. She saw the massive head of the machine lift, its single red eye glowing like fire in the dark. It turned slowly and its gaze landed on everything alive, hunters, girl, and boy alike. Her chest tightened. It didn't matter who they were. To this thing, they were all intruders. The machine moved, each step shaking the cavern floor. A hunter screamed as the massive hand slammed down, crushing the ground where he stood. The girl stumbled, falling to her knees. The boy raced back to her, grabbing her finger with his tiny hands. "Get up, don't stop!" She forced herself to her feet, her legs trembling. Together they ran again, the machine's roars and the hunters' shouts blending into chaos behind them. The tunnel ahead split into two paths. The girl hesitated. "Which way?" The boy didn't pause. "Left!" They darted into the left tunnel, just as a bright beam of light lit the right side. Hunters followed, their heavy boots pounding closer. The tunnel twisted, narrow and wet. The girl scraped her shoulders against the walls as she crawled faster. The boy darted ahead, his small body slipping through spaces she struggled to pass. Behind them, the machine forced its body forward, smashing stone and metal alike. The hunters screamed and scattered, some still chasing, others fleeing from the monster they had awoken. The tunnel shook with every impact. The girl's heart pounded in her ears. She thought she would collapse, but the boy's voice kept pulling her forward. "Just a little more," he shouted. "I know a place." They burst into a smaller chamber filled with broken panels and hanging wires. Sparks rained from above, lighting the room in flashes of blue. The girl collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. Her body ached, her chest heavy. The boy climbed onto a pipe and pointed toward the far wall. "There's a hidden tunnel there. We can lose them in it." But before they could move, a hunter dropped into the chamber, blocking the path. His face was covered by a mask, his flashlight blinding. "There you are," he growled. The girl froze, fear locking her body. The boy, however, didn't flinch. He shouted, "Behind you!" The hunter spun, confused, too late. A massive piece of stone crashed down as the machine's arms smashed through the wall, missing them but sending the hunter flying. The boy grabbed the girl's wrist. Now run! They sprinted to the hidden tunnel. The girl squeezed through, her body scraping the sharp edges while the boy slipped easily inside. Behind them, the chamber collapsed under the machine's weight. Darkness swallowed them again. The sound of the hunters faded, replaced only by the distant roar of the machine and the rumble of falling stone. The girl crawled forward, her body trembling. We barely made it. The boy, though panting, gave a small smile. Barely is enough. As long as we keep moving, we're alive. She looked at him, her chest still rising and falling fast. He was so small, yet he had led her through the chaos, never hesitating, never giving up. But the danger was not over. Far in the tunnel, a faint blue light glowed. Strange whispers filled the air like voices carried on static. The boy's smile faded. We're not safe yet. The girl shivered. What is that? He looked at the glow with wary eyes. Something old. Something hidden. The hunters don't know this place exists. But I do. The whispers grew louder. The air turned colder. The girl hugged her arms around herself, wishing the danger had ended with the chase. But deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The tunnel sloped downward, colder with every step. The girl's hands brushed against damp stone and tangled wires. The faint blue glow ahead grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispers filled the air, soft at first, then clearer, like fragments of broken speech. She swallowed hard. Those voices, what are they? The boy glanced back at her, his small face serious. Not voices, recordings, ghosts of the past. They echo through these walls. The girl shivered. The whispers made her skin crawl. Some sounded human. Others were strange, mechanical, almost inhuman. Finally, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The girl gasped. It was not trash, not ruins. It was something older, hidden, alive, with strange power. Rows of glass tubes stretched across the room, many shattered, others still glowing faintly with blue liquid. Broken consoles lined the walls, their screens flashing symbols she couldn't read. Wires ran across the floor like roots of a dead tree. At the center stood a machine unlike the others. Tall, elegant, with arms that ended in delicate instruments instead of weapons. Its head was round, with a single cracked lens. Even broken, it seemed to be watching. This is, she whispered. The lab, the boy said softly, stepping into the glow. The place where I was made. The girl froze. Her chest tightened as she stared at him. Made? He nodded. I wasn't born like you. The humans built me. They wanted to create tiny humans for their work. Scouts, workers, explorers, disposable. His voice grew heavy. I was one of them. Her heart ached. She had thought he was just cursed by fate, shrunk by accident. But now she understood he was created to be small, to be used, to be thrown away. Why here? She asked, her voice trembling. The boy walked past the broken tubes, his small hands brushing the glass. Because this place was secret, hidden under the trash world. They tested on children here, changed their size, their strength. Most didn't survive. She covered her mouth, horrified. Children. He stopped before the central machine, his eyes reflecting the pale blue glow. I remember waking up inside one of these tubes, cold, alone. I remember the voices of the humans calling me a tool. I remember escaping when the lab was abandoned. Since then, I've lived here. The girl stepped closer. So this is your home, he shook his head. No, this is my prison. Even after escaping the humans, I never escaped what they made me. The girl's chest hurt. She understood too well. She too had been treated as less than a person. She too had been hunted, used, and discarded. Before she could speak, the machine stirred. The central console flickered to life, symbols racing across its cracked screen. The whispers grew louder, forming words. Project Mini H. Status. Failed. Survivors. 1. The girl's eyes widened. It's talking about you. The boy's fists clenched. Yes, I was the only one who lived. The others are gone. A lump formed in her throat. She looked at him not as something strange, but as someone carrying heavy pain. But then the console changed. The screen flashed red and a new voice echoed from the walls. Cold, mechanical, sharp, alert. Unauthorized presence detected, activating security system. The girl's blood ran cold. What does that mean? The boy's face went pale. It means the lab thinks we're intruders. Panels in the walls hissed open. Mechanical arms slid out, tipped with blades and tools. The broken machines sparked to life, their cracked lenses glowing faint red. The girl stumbled back. We have to leave. The boy shook his head quickly. No. If we run now, the hunters will corner us outside. This lab connects deeper into the tunnels. We can escape through there, but first we must shut down the systems. Her chest tightened with fear. But how? The boy's eyes hardened. I know this place. I know its codes, its patterns. I can stop it. But I need you to protect me while I work. She stared at him. Protect him? He was tiny, fragile, breakable, but also the only one who knew this place. If he failed, they were both dead. The mechanical arms moved closer, their tips glowing. The machines let out metallic screeches that echoed through the chamber. The boy pointed to a console near the far wall. There. That's the control panel. Get me there and I'll do the rest. Her breath shook, but she nodded. Then let's move. She scooped him gently into her hands, and he clung to her fingers as she ran across the chamber. Sparks rained from the ceiling, and metal arms slashed down, barely missing her. She ducked, rolled, and pushed forward, her fear burning into determination. The boy's voice was steady, guiding her. Faster left! Watch out! They reached the panel, its screen glowing red. She placed him down on the console, and he began typing rapidly with his tiny hands. Symbols flashed faster and faster, alarms screaming in the chamber. The machines closed in. The girl grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and swung at the arms, knocking them back. Sparks flew as she fought, her arms burning with effort. Hurry, she cried. I'm almost there. The boy shouted, his small voice drowned by the alarms. The machines pressed closer. She swung again and again, her muscles screaming, her breath ragged. Then suddenly, the alarm stopped. The machines froze in place. Their red lights blinked, then dimmed into darkness. The whispers faded into silence. The chamber grew still. The girl collapsed onto her knees, gasping. The boy slid down from the console, his tiny face pale but triumphant. It's done. The lab is silent again. She looked at him, her chest still rising and falling fast. You saved us, he shook his head. We saved each other. For the first time, the girl smiled. A weak smile, trembling but real. But before the moment could settle, the console flickered one last time. A hidden screen lit up, showing a shadowy figure watching them through static. The boy's face went cold. Someone is still out there. The girl's stomach dropped. The hunters were one danger. The machines were another. But now she realized there was something else, someone who had never stopped watching. The chamber was quiet now, but it was not peace. The machines were dark, the alarm silent, yet the image on the cracked screen flickered with static. A shadowy figure remained, blurred but watching. The girl's stomach twisted. Who is that? She whispered. The boy's tiny face was grim. The humans who built this place may be gone, but someone still controls it. Someone is still watching us. The figure on the screen did not speak, but the feeling was heavy, like unseen eyes pressing against their skin. Then the screen blinked out, leaving only silence and the sound of their own breathing. The girl hugged her arms tight. We should leave. I don't want to be here anymore. The boy nodded slowly. Yes, but the hunters are still outside. And now the lab knows we exist. Escaping will not be easy. Before he could say more, a crash echoed through the tunnel above. Dust rained down and heavy boots thudded closer. The girl's heart sank. The hunters. They're here. Voices boomed through the darkness. Find them. They can't have gone far. The boy's eyes darted around the chamber. We have two choices, he said quickly. We can flee deeper into the tunnels, or we can fight them here. But either way, it will be dangerous. Her body trembled. She hated choices. Choices meant risk. Choices meant loss. But there was no time. She glanced at the broken machines around them. If we run deeper, what's there? Unknown tunnels, he said. Dangerous. But the hunters may not follow. And if we fight? His jaw tightened. Then we stand here against hunters stronger than us. But this lab has weapons. I could try to wake them again, not to kill us, but to protect us. Her chest tightened. Both paths were deadly. Running meant the unknown. Fighting meant facing both hunters and the dangerous machines. I don't know, she whispered. The boy stepped closer, his tiny eyes locking with hers. Listen, you are stronger than you believe. But strength is not enough. You must choose. We cannot survive if we hesitate. The hunters' voices drew nearer. Their flashlights cut through the cracks in the chamber wall. Time was running out. The girl's heart pounded. She looked at him, this strange tiny boy born of a lab but filled with fire. She thought of his words. You're not garbage. Her hands clenched into fists. Then we fight, she said, her voice trembling but firm. If we run, they will keep chasing us. If we fight, maybe we end it here. The boy nodded. Then we fight. He climbed onto the console again, his small hands moving across broken keys. Symbols flashed on the screen, machines humming faintly. The girl gripped a metal pipe, her body tense. The wall cracked open with a loud crash, and hunters poured inside, their flashlights blinding. There they are, one shouted. The girl swung her pipe, knocking the first hunter's weapon aside. Sparks flew as metal hit metal. She pushed forward, her fear turning to raw survival. At the same time, the machines in the chamber stirred. The boy's voice echoed, sharp and commanding. Now! From the walls, mechanical arms shot out, not at the girl, not at the boy, but at the hunters. Blades clashed with rifles. Sparks and screams filled the chamber. The girl fought with everything she had. She ducked under a hunter's swing and smashed her pipe against his mask. He fell back, cursing. Another hunter grabbed her arm, but she twisted free and shoved him into a live wire, sparks exploding. She had never felt so alive. Terrified, yes, but alive. The boy shouted from the console, his fingers flying. Hold them back. Just a little longer. The machines obeyed his commands. Arms slammed down, blocking hunters. Lights flared, blinding them, but the hunters were many. Too many. For every one that fell, two more pressed forward. The girl's strength began to fail. Her arms ached, her breath ragged. A hunter struck her shoulder and she cried out in pain, stumbling. The boy looked at her, his small face tight with worry. Then his eyes hardened with a terrible decision. He pressed a final sequence into the console. The chamber shook violently, alarm screaming again. What are you doing? She cried. He looked at her, his voice steady but sad. The lab has one last defense. A self-destruction. It will collapse the chamber and seal the tunnels. The hunters will be buried. But so will we, unless you run now. Her heart froze.
No, you'll die!
He gave her a small smile, weary but true. You said we fight. And sometimes fighting means sacrifice. Go, live. You are not garbage. You must survive. Tears filled her eyes. She couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The thought of leaving him, of losing the only one who had ever spoken to her with kindness, tore at her heart. The chamber trembled harder, cracks splitting the walls. Rocks fell, dust filled the air. The boy's voice broke through her sobs. Choose now. Run or stay and die. The hunters screamed as machines lashed at them, but more pressed forward. Time was gone, her hands shook. Her body screamed in pain. But in her heart she knew the truth. This choice was not just about survival. It was about who she wanted to be. Was she garbage to be discarded? Or was she something more? Someone worth saving, someone worth fighting for? Her breath hitched. She wiped her tears. And with trembling hands she reached for him. No, she whispered fiercely. I won't leave you. The boy's eyes widened. What? She scooped him into her arms and ran. The chamber roared behind them, collapsing into chaos. Hunters screamed as rocks and machines buried them alive. The tunnel shook as she fled, dust choking her lungs, but she didn't stop. She ran with all the strength she had left, clutching the tiny boy to her chest. Behind them, the hidden lab crumbled into darkness. The tunnel shook as if the world itself was breaking apart. The girl ran, her arms tight around the tiny human boy. Dust filled her mouth, rocks cut her knees, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Behind them, the hidden lab collapsed in thunder, burying hunters, machines, and secrets under tons of stone. Her lungs burned. Every step felt like fire in her legs. But the boy's small voice kept her moving. Don't stop now, he whispered. We're almost out. Finally, light appeared ahead. A pale glow, faint but real. She pushed forward with the last of her strength, stumbling out of the tunnel and into the open night. The rain had stopped. The trash world was quiet, its towers of metal glistening under the weak light of distant moons. The girl fell to her knees, gasping, holding the boy gently in her hands. For the first time in what felt like forever, she breathed air that was not choked with dust. They were alive. The boy climbed onto her shoulder, his tiny hand resting against her cheek. You did it, he said softly. You chose to live. Tears filled her eyes. No, she whispered, her voice shaking. We did it. Together. For a long moment they sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the trash heaps settling, the storm fading, the world quiet again. The girl looked at the boy. What happens now? Where do we go? He gazed out at the endless mountains of scrap. Anywhere but here. There are safer tunnels. Maybe even villages far from the hunters. We'll find them. We'll start again. Her lips trembled into a weak smile. Together? His tiny smile answered. Together. But the peace did not last. Far in the distance, a faint rumble echoed. The girl stiffened, her heart skipping. Is it more hunters? The boy shook his head slowly, his eyes narrowing. No, that sound is different. They both turned to see a glow on the horizon. Not the soft blue of old machines, nor the red of the awakened giant. This glow was sharp, white, artificial. Ships. The girl's chest tightened. Someone else is coming. The boy's voice was low. The one who was watching us. Her stomach twisted. She remembered the shadowy figure on the lab screen. Whoever it was, they had not forgotten. The boy climbed down her shoulder and stood on her palm, looking up at her with steady eyes. Listen, we may have escaped the hunters, but this is only the beginning. Whoever controls that lab, they know about us now. They will come. Fear gripped her, but she nodded. Then we keep running. He shook his head. Not just running, surviving, fighting. If we are to live, we must be more than prey. We must be more than tools. We must be free. His words struck her heart. She thought of the hunters who called her worthless. She thought of the humans who called him disposable. And for the first time, she believed both of them could prove the world wrong. You're right, she said firmly. We are not garbage. The boy's eyes shone. No, we are not. They rose together, the girl clutching him close as they walked through the endless mountains of metal. Every step forward was uncertain, but it was theirs. The trash world loomed around them, silent but heavy with secrets. They knew more dangers waited, machines, hunters, and now something greater. But they also knew they had each other. For the girl, who had once thought herself nothing, that was enough. For the boy, who had once been alone in the dark, that was everything. As they disappeared into the maze of towers and shadows, a faint signal blinked high above. In the orbit of the trash world, on a hidden ship, screens glowed. A figure sat in the dark, watching the two small shapes move across the wasteland. The figure leaned forward, their voice cold and amused. So the experiment survived after all, they murmured, and he found a friend. The screen zoomed closer on the girl and the boy walking side by side. Good, the figure said. Let them run. Let them fight. The real test begins now. The screen flickered. The watcher's face lost again in static. Far below, unaware of the watching eyes, the girl and the tiny human boy kept moving forward into the unknown. Together. Not garbage. Not tools. Survivors.